This is our second part, so we can be just and hear both sides of the issue. We've got a group, No Tax for Tracks, that is going to give us a 15-minute presentation. That'll be followed by a Q&A from council. So we'll start. We'll welcome Barb Haselden up to the front, and we can keep this to about 15, and then we'll do the Q&A at the end.
All right.
And this will be a presentation. We're not going to do a call and response from the audience. We're going to hear a presentation out, and then we'll have some questions and keep it nice and orderly.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening, and I will talk as quickly as I can. I have a lot to cover. I will just start out by saying that I've attended the PSTA meetings for about 3.5 years, and so a lot of what I'm going to show you tonight is going to be directly from PSTA's own slideshows and own information that I've accumulated. And first of all, I want to start off by talking, and I am going to talk really fast, the decline of public transit. In post-World War II, 50% of transportation in urban areas was by public transportation, such as trolleys and buses. And currently, nationwide, it's dropped to 2%. In fact, in Pinellas County, the 2010 U.S. Census told us that 1.6% of all workers in Pinellas County use public transportation to get to their job. So basically, what we have is a mode of transportation that is, it's lost its popularity with the American public. In fact, this is our public bus system, PSTA, and we can be very proud of the public bus system that we currently have. We certainly have invested millions and millions of dollars into it. PSTA operations are currently 75% subsidized by the taxpayers. And if you go down through and see, now this is just the operations budget, they have fare and stay grants of 22%, passenger fares, very critical for us to understand that every time someone gets on the bus, that they're contributing 22% of the cost of the operations of the system. Advertising is 3%, and then ad valorem property tax in the red. This is what all of the debate is about, is the ad valorem property tax that is on real estate in Pinellas County. The 2014 operation budget for PSTA is projected to be $63 million, which is 5% over 2013. Plus, the capital budget, which is the cost of buying all of the equipment, is $28 million in addition. So they have a $92 million a year budget now. If you divide that by the number of annual rides, the cost per ride for every time someone gets on and takes a ride is $7, and the average fare is 91 cents that they are contributing in the overall operation and capital of the system. So it is 87% subsidized currently, and of course we're all happy to provide that service to the folks who need help with their transportation. Now, I only use this slide, I just want to draw your attention to the red bars, that's it. The red bars, starting in 2002, this will show us what happened to our property values over the last decade plus. And as you see the red bar goes up to the top, that's the year 2007 when we all thought we were rich. I know I thought that maybe I was going to be able to take a reverse mortgage out on my house and just live on it for the rest of my life. And then the bottom dropped out of everything. And as our property values went down, and I don't have to tell City Council that the ad valorem dropped, and so did the income, the revenue, of course, to municipalities and agencies like PSTA. Now, I do want to go back. That black line there is where PSTA then had a property tax increase and rate to boost their income back up. But during that time, in 2005, PSTA built a $40 million facility, doubling their space and expenses and expanding their bus line. This is out of 34th Street, and this is, it's a huge mega facility that was entered into and obligated to the county at a time when that red line was going up. But then, you see in 2007, the blue line, that ad valorem property tax, again, the part that I pointed out, that is from the home, was at a high of $38 million, and then in 2008, 2009, you can see that blue line dropping down, and then where it goes back up is where they had a 30% tax increase to try to improve their revenue. They raised the taxes on our homes in 2012 by 30%, but still they continued to outspend their money. Their revenue. This is PSTA's own slide. You can see on the right-hand side. This is a 2002 and forward slide, and you can see that again, this follows exactly the trajectory that I was pointing out of the home values. As their revenue was increased by our property tax off of our homes, this is their spending. and 2002 up through 6, up through 7, and then you can see that in 2007 it started to level off because, of course, their income dropped so significantly. Then in 2012, when they raised the property tax by the 30%, there the line starts to go up again. The green line that you see is the referendum, November 2014, and this is how sure they are that they're going to get the 1% sales tax increase or the 14% rate hike because they have that line there, and you can see that the spending is continuing on beyond that date. So they raised our taxes, but this, and then also the staffing level. This is another example of how the staffing in 2007 was at an all-time high, then the bottom dropped out, the staffing went down as they let people go, and then when they got the tax increase through, then they started hiring more people again. And yet PSTA CEO Brad Miller warns again that if a new sustainable funding source is not found, PSTA services will have to be cut 30% by 2016. They are at a crossroad, and they want to transform at great public expense or to fix the bus system. That's their choice in November, is to transform the system into a rail system at great public expense or fix the bus system. And this is the Greenlight Pinellas, which is a highly controversial $1 million Greenlight campaign. And it is talking about increasing bus service and adding light rail. Now, a lot of people, I have to tell you that I talk to, they think that this is a high-speed rail that they're talking about. And it is not a high-speed rail. It is like an average speed of, say, 25 to 28 miles per hour around the nation is what these normally three-car rail systems are, that are surface systems. They are not elevated, and they ride along, and actually in many cases they're sharing lanes and taking lanes from roadways in many parts of the country. And so in Greenlight Pinellas, the yes or no ballot will be there November 2014. And so the real estate tax now, to go back to that, is currently $32 million a year. The sales tax increase will generate $148 million a year the first year. So the $32 million would be the ad valorem that they're currently getting from us, and the sales tax increase would be $148 million. Now this chart here really dramatically shows on the far left what the current ad valorem generates, and then you see the dramatic, enormous difference that this makes, and then it will be projected to go up by 3% every year without sunset for this system. They're calling it a tax swap, a sales tax to replace the property tax, but $148 million for $32 million is hardly a swap. Revenue neutral would be a swap. And there is no tax swap document, so to speak. There is not an interlocal agreement that is being talked about. It has not been produced at this point. So the talk of the tax swap is disingenuous, in that there's not even a document at this point. And the only way that their taxing authority can be taken away, of course, is through the state legislature. So they're trying to hammer out an agreement, and it has not yet been produced, even though they're talking about it every day. The Pinellas County highest sales tax in the rate would be at 8% if this is passed. There's no other county in the state that has an 8% sales tax. This cannot do anything but hurt businesses in our county and it can damage our county. PSTA then will take this income, this income stream, just as if you were going to go buy a property. If you have a job in Wyoming, and let's say you're making $100,000 a year in Wyoming, and you want to buy a $300,000 a year house, you go to the bank and you take that $100,000 income, and that's the proof of your revenue or your income to leverage it into the $100,000. I want you to understand that this $148 million initial revenue is going to be used simply as proof of payment to go to the federal government, to go to the bond market, to indebt our county up to $1 billion initially. So we are going to be giving them a credit card, and we are all going to be co-signers if we vote for this, to get our county into debt, not only the $148 million initial annual out of the budget, out of the local economy, but also to get us into terrific debt. And what impact is this going to have on Penny for Pinellas? There is a lot of concern around the county by municipalities as to what impact it will have in 2017 when this comes back up for vote, if this is passed. Will people start thinking, oh gee, this is 9%? I mean, this is, what is the confusion level And what would be the commitment that people would have to continue the penny for Pinellas that is so important to all the municipalities? However, PSTO Brad Miller says doing nothing is not an option. The whole program is built on false premises. First of all, they have on their website that there's 200,000 more people on the way and that we must prepare. This is a page out of their own brochure on Greenlight Pinellas. You're welcome to go look at it. However, it's not true. We have lost population in this county over the last 10 years, and the census proved to us to the point that if you look here, this was in the St. Pete Times a couple weeks ago, the red line is Pinellas County. We are projecting a flat growth in Pinellas County. There is no 200,000 people that are coming that we have to get ready for. Another false premise is record ridership on the buses. They claim 1 million people a month or 1.2 million are riding the buses, or 1.2 million rides. These are not people, these are rides, and how they count rides is that if you get on and you're going to go to the mall and you have to change buses 2 or 3 times and 2 or 3 times to get back, it's 6 rides. So this is national standard. I understand that, but I think we have to understand how buses are counting their rides, and it is not people. It is how many times they transfer. Now these numbers, I have gone back and looked, have not changed dramatically in years. The numbers are pretty much within about a 5 to 10% of where they have been for many years, and I can prove anything I'm saying here today. Have you noticed the empty buses? I live over off of 4th Street. I see 3 and 4 buses at a time going by. I don't care what time of day it is, that have 2 or 3 people on them. Sometimes they're totally empty. And the reason for that is that we see here by the Pinellas bus study that they have done, and first time in 20 years, by the way, they did a bus study, $700,000 that we paid for a bus study. And this bus study took these 40 routes and they studied the route, the entire system, to see what could be done to fix the system. And what they came up with was this startling graph. And this graph tells us of the gray lines here, those are buses. The blue lines are trolleys, the green lines are the buses that go over to the Tampa. This is ridership. And you can see this is an unaltered slide. This is exactly the bus study, the independent company. This is their slide that they presented to PSTA. And it tells us the circled 5 lines there are the top 5 local routes account for 46% of the system ridership. And then these 2 trolley routes account for another 13% of the system ridership. So combined, those routes account for nearly 60% of the system ridership. That is amazing, and that is why we see so many empty buses running around town. And the empty promise to the suffering riders on those heavy 5, you may have heard about the people that is so crowded on the buses. It is crowded on those 5 buses. And so what they need to do is they need to take and realign some of those underperforming dead bus routes into the routes that are very busy and give more frequency so people don't have to stand and wait as long. The empty promise to the suffering riders on the few overcrowded routes is that 64% more bus service is coming with Greenlight. That too is just a promise, however, because in the Ernst & Young study, it says that reducing the proposed bus expansion is an early remedy listed in the EMY report as to how to remediate any cost overruns, which of course there's going to be cost overruns. It happens in every single program like this. Another false premise that a lot of people think is that it's going to have a rail connection to Tampa, and there is no rail connection to Tampa in this 10-year plan. Also in the Greenlight Plan is bus rapid transit with dedicated lanes. Now, this is a picture off, again, of their Greenlight site that they have since taken down. You can see here that this is their very own slide, and this is a Photoshop 4th Street showing bus only in that lane. And I also have videos, tapes of different individuals with PSTA that talk about exclusive use lanes on the BRTs. So the light rail subsidy per ride. I talked a little bit earlier about the PSTA bus system at $7. Charlotte's light rail system, a 9-mile track, $15.45 per rider that gets on, and they pay $2. Houston, $16.28 for a 7-mile rail. They pay $2. Minneapolis, St. Paul, $21.34 for a 12-mile track. Phoenix, $32.73 for a 20-mile track. And Greenlight Pinellas is 24 miles. I think that this is a harbinger of the type of cost overruns and subsidies that you get into with these types of projects. The Charlotte Observer just 2 weeks ago said, cash-strapped city, state officials seek private dollars for public projects. Mecklenburg County leaders struggle to find a way to pay for $5 billion worth of unmet transportation projects in the CAT's 2030 plan. Who did Charlotte's financial projections in 1997? Ernst & Young. Charlotte Mayor Patrick Cannon was just arrested last week for bribery, extortion, and corruption charges by the FBI for influence peddling.
I'm going to ask you what this has to do with Pinellas County.
It's the kind of problem you
Since
can
this
get into.
is an individual's personal tribulation in another city, I'm not sure what this has to do
I'll go to
with
the
it. We
next
can stick
slide.
with Pinellas.
Okay, this is breaking news. So in Pinellas, we feel that we just have no need. As a matter of fact, we have now the new Gateway project that is coming, and that is being funded by some money from Penny for Pinellas and also from the state over the excess funds that are left over in the state DOT budget. And so here we have what's going to be a tremendous project coming off of 275 and feeding right into Highway 19. And so to start to wrap this up, we want to save the bus system for those that depend on public transportation, not start taxing them or the seniors. We want to fix the 30% budget and staff and low-performing routes now, and they know what needs to be done, and it can be done without gambling all the way down to November. And if, honestly, if they can't do this with all of the money that we have put into this system and all the wonderful buses and assets that we have there, perhaps the private sector needs to have an opportunity to make a bid for this. Because here we have, the huge buses that I showed at the beginning are $650,000 a piece, and we have connectors that in many cases could do the job at $144,000 each. So in November, you have a choice, and we hope that you will say no on Greenlight Pinellas. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
So at this point, all right. We're going to turn it over to council. Yeah, you did great. You stayed right in there. So we're going to turn it over to council. We'll follow our speaking order, beginning with Councilmember Brown. If anyone has questions for Ms. Haselden.
I did read many emails that came in over the last couple of weeks from both sides, and I was wondering how many people are projected to lose their property because of expanding the rail. It said that you had to have 10 feet or 20 feet between
I believe
rails.
it's
30 feet between rails, so obviously the corridor where the tracks are now for CSX are going to have to be expanded. Are they going to go at a different place? Are they going to?
Well, thank you for asking that, Christine. I think that, some of these details you can't pin down. And as a matter of fact, I had an email from someone just yesterday that said that they were going to run it down Missouri or up Missouri and then East Bay. And so it seems that the details are just not really, not cast in concrete. Everything can change at this point. And so, as a matter of fact, as we kind of bring light to things that we find, like the dedicated bus lanes, then they kind of go away. And then they're, so it is a moving thing.
Also, you said there's 24 miles of light rail going in.
Yeah.
Where does it start? Where does it end?
Well, it starts like about 10th Street, downtown St. Pete, and then it's going to kind of traverse over, get up on 275, and go down around the Haynes Road area, get off, go past Park Place Mall, get back on 275, and go up around the airport, where at that point, apparently there was not any allowance that was given to the project of the Gateway Connector, and so now there's a collision there with projects around the airport area, but it's supposed to go around there. That's their plan, is to go around there, and then to head on to downtown Clearwater.
Can I ask you what your interest is in this? You're just a regular taxpayer?
I am. I have no financial interest in this, and actually I have a big financial interest. It's cost me a lot of money to do this because I've gotten so much time invested in it, but I'm happy to do it. But that is, the interest is, there is no financial interest other than being a taxpayer.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fedovich.
Don't most metropolitan areas have a rapid transit or a good bus system? You chose a number of them, but you also missed Atlanta, Miami, even Miami has one, albeit.
Yeah, it is. So, have you checked the numbers on Miami?
I've ridden the ones in Miami, I know how good they could be.
Have you checked the numbers on Miami? I mean, it's ugly. And now I'm from Indianapolis, and we don't have one in Indianapolis. I mean, that's where I'm from, like 30 years ago, is where I go back to Indianapolis. Indianapolis is certainly a world-class city. There are many cities that do not have rail, and I would suggest to you that some of them that do, wish they didn't.
With the traffic issues with auto prices or gas prices rising, don't you think that most people would be looking for alternative ways if they had better bus systems to get, if we had more routes, they would use the bus more? I mean, if gas prices hit through $4, which are predicted to do for a while anyway, when it comes down, there's still more people, if you had buses going, they would want to ride them.
Well, you know, the problem with public transportation today is that it generally doesn't go where we want to go. And also, when we look at our lifestyle, you know, we have a cell phone now that kind of changes our life every single day. And so, you know, here you are on a, I mean, is this the type of lifestyle that we're going to be going to, or is this the lifestyle that we've left in the past because of things like our cell phone and because of the freedom that our own private transportation has given us? You know, people are not Americans are not going to walk away from their car. You know, I think that a lot of Americans might think that it'd be great to have a system like this, but they're hoping somebody else is going to ride it and get off the road so that they can have more roadway. So I don't see any indication. In fact, in the cities that do have light rail, congestion is worse than it is here.
Really?
Yeah, I have a chart that I can be glad to make a copy.
I'd like to see that one.
I'll get, yes.
When I lived in Atlanta, I know the traffic in Atlanta is atrocious, but part of their problem is that they're not in all the counties surrounding Atlanta because they opt out of it. Consequently, they go into Atlanta and make the traffic worse, so I doubt the chart is accurate in that sense.
Yeah, I'll get you that chart. I have that chart. And I'll give you a copy of that.
I have one more question, I can't think what it is, so I'll pass it. Oh, I know what it was. While many of us we all want to save the penny for Pinellas, we don't want to be overtaxed, aren't we talking about swapping tax out so the tax rate doesn't rise at all?
You want to say that again?
My understanding was the penny for Pinellas stays.
Yes.
We're losing one tax, we're not actually gaining a tax, am I correct?
No, that's not true.
They're getting rid of the property tax?
No, that's not the case. If you, what I was saying to you is that the promise is that they will zero out the ad valorem property rate, but they do not have the ability to eliminate their taxing authority. PSTA is currently virtually at their millage cap set by the state. So they really are in a situation where they either have to convince us to go to a different form of funding, or they have to fix the bus system. And that's what I was trying to present, is that the bus study has been done. They do know exactly what needs to be done in order to repair the bus system and make it more efficient and give better service. So in answer to your question, there is no document at this point that has been produced that is an interlocal agreement that says that if they quit taking ad valorem and if they zero it out on our homes, then they start getting the 1% sales tax. This interlocal agreement is supposed to say that for every dollar that they might start to charge ad valorem in the future, they'll lose $1 back to the county. But guess what? We're still going to be double taxed. Now, that has nothing to do with Penny for Pinellas. Penny for Pinellas is up for its 10-year renewal in 2017. This tax, once we pass this, if we were to pass it, it is forever. You know, the language says until it's repealed. I don't see how it's going to be repealed when we have all of this bus system and all of these, the rail and so on and so forth, that we're committed to billions of dollars of debt or a system that has to be paid for. Once we have it, we have it. It says in there that there is no sunset on it.
All right, thank you.
All right, Councilmember Licky.
Thank you for your presentation. Gulfport currently needs like $25 million in sewer repairs. Referendum passes, any chance we can borrow money from the SDA? I'm being facetious, I'm just thinking, I want to think we have a lot of infrastructure issues, and it looks like we're looking for new ways to, create new maintenance issues. The question I have about those sales taxes, does that apply to commercial sales?
Two,
I know it applies to anything under 5,000.
right, under
So if you want
5,000.
to buy a car, it would apply to the first 5,000.
Right.
But what about commercial sales? Does the 1% tax apply to the commercial sales?
Yes, I believe it does. I mean, if I, you want to expand on what you mean by commercial sales?
As a business, I wanted to buy a fleet of vans for my air conditioning business.
As I understand it, anything that currently is subject to tax, sales tax, which excludes things like food, is going to be subjected to this up to a $5,000 limit.
But is there not a limit on the commercial side?
I guess I can't answer
I
that.
don't really, I've heard there isn't, but I haven't been able to confirm
Yeah.
my information on it.
Okay.
My concern is if Manatee County has 6.5%, and we're sitting at 8, and I'm gonna buy $100,000 worth of vehicles, and I can save $1,500 or $2,000 just by driving over a bridge. I'm afraid some people might do that,
Well-
there'll be some lost revenue. I don't know, is there any studies on the potential lost revenue due to neighboring counties having lower sales tax?
No, there's only the presumption that there's going to be lost business because of the increased sales tax. But you make a great point, and I'll certainly be checking into that.
Why is PSTA not requesting the state legislature to raise the millage cap?
Well, the HB 865 was in 2000, let's see, this is 14, I think it was in 2012. There was an attempt by PSTA to be able to have the millage cap eliminated, and for them to have actually what it said is that if the 1% sales tax were passed, that the PSTA ad valorem property tax would be eliminated. And the governor vetoed that because he said that he thought that that would be the opportunity for a huge tax increase in the in the county of Pinellas. And that was exactly what the governor said. He said he was going to veto that to try to keep a huge tax increase from happening in our county.
So has
And which, by the way, they
anybody
went ahead and did the same messaging, even though they legally have it eliminated.
Has anybody explored discussing, with the state legislature raising the cap, 175?
No, I don't know about that. I can't answer that.
I heard that some of the outreach material has come under question, and some people were requesting, somebody were getting mad. Have you heard any additional details on?
Well, this afternoon, Senator Jeff Brandes has gone to send a letter to the Florida Department of Transportation requesting an investigation into the spending of public money on the Greenlight project, and has asked for the Inspector General. I'm sure you'll be hearing all about it on the news tonight. I was called several times this afternoon by the media for reaction. So this is a very huge new development is this request to FDOT to investigate the appropriateness of the spending of public funds on this Greenlight Pinellas
So it just happened.
this afternoon.
Okay. All right. I have one question, but we'll let you know that.
Councilmember Rowan?
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have a couple questions. First, is there good in the project right now? I mean, you mentioned earlier buses don't go where we want them to go. We talk about increased frequency and taking care of situations where we need to alleviate crowded buses and so forth. New transportation modes to get people from point A to point B where we don't have that today. What good is in the project that you would say, we were going to spend some funds, this is what we should be doing?
Well, I think that BRTs have a lot of promise. The express lanes, things as simple as synchronizing stoplights. I don't know how you feel. It's like, how could it be that every time I go from one to the other? But there are some simple things like that can be done. But I think that what this is going to call for is to get through this, what we advocate, what we're asking from you is to not endorse this plan. It's got way too many questions. But what we advocate for is to vote no in November so that they can then go to this bus study that has, we've already spent $700,000 for, and let's sit down at the table and start talking about how do we rearrange the furniture in the living room so that it is more efficient for the occupants. I mean, we have people who depend on this and need this service, and they're just not, they're not getting a fair shake because there's too much politics going on. There's too much. There's just too much, and we need to fix what we have. We have a wonderful look at what we have, and we need to make it efficient.
All right, another question. I liked your presentation. Saw a lot of information in there. It seemed a little disconnected to me. Have you been given the complete details? Have you sat with Greenlight Pinellas to see all the research, bring your data to their data? And
This is their data.
this is, I know, but it didn't, to me, it seemed like there was a lot of pieces in there,
Yeah,
and you're
different subjects.
questioning a lot of their data. So have you been at the table with the researchers and looked at the data and come to some sort of conclusion why there's differences in the findings?
Well, I don't know that there's differences in the findings. There's differences in opinion. This is their findings, and this is my opinion and our opinion as to looking at this data and interpreting it. It's how do you interpret the data. And in response to your direct question, we get 3 minutes at the PSTA meetings, okay? And I've just completely given up even taking those 3 minutes. As I said earlier, I started going to the meetings at the very first Transportation Task Force meeting. I have followed it all the way through the alternative analysis and attended all of these. Not only the PSTA meetings, but the committee meetings. They have like 5 committees. It's all populated by just really about 20 people that are on various committees. And so I have stacks of data. And it's very difficult in 15 minutes to, I'm doing my best in representing No Tax for Tracks to bring a cohesive bundling, if you will, of information in a 15-minute time
And I just have one follow-up.
Sure.
One of the concerns I do have, and it came up at the last meeting where Greenlight Pinellas was here.
Yes.
So there's enacted legislation that enables the taxation that pays for Pinellas. And as I understand, because I looked at the video from the last meeting, that the House and the Senate in Tallahassee voted to eliminate the ability for PSTA to levy the property tax, but that was vetoed by the governor. And I understand that that attempt may be resurfaced by PSTA after the vote for Greenlight Pinellas. So there's a lot of concern for me about that. What's your position? Are you working with the legislature in that area? Is that a position that you have someone advocating on behalf for the governor to make sure that?
I don't think the support is there for it to move it out of the county. It will not come out of the legislative delegation out of Pinellas County. The support's not there. So that's the answer. Thank you.
All right, I just had one. You mentioned the Miami numbers. You don't happen to know what they're.
I have them in my sack.
No problem.
I mean, it's huge. I would encourage you to look that up.
Well, I was curious
That's
about
right,
the
yeah,
money per
yeah,
ride.
it's
Is that
huge.
based on is that also incorporating the cost to build the infrastructure to purchase the actual
What did you
vehicles
say?
themselves?
The
cost
penny?
per ride?
The-
The estimates you were making for cost per ride when you were talking about
The
Minneapolis,
$7?
St. Paul. Yeah, you had the numbers where you had how much track they put
Yes,
down.
yes,
So that was incorporating the
yes.
total
Cost and
cost.
operations of those systems is
Not
shaking
just
out.
operational cost.
No, I said the
to
cost
put
and
them
also the operations and capital,
in. Okay.
yes, is
So that's
factored
based
into
over
those
how
numbers.
long a period of time? Because I'm thinking of cities that have had them in for a long time,
That's the
and clearly
current
that
cost.
can't be the same cost because you can't put the cost in for laying the track and buying the vehicles themselves over so long. So was there a period of time over which that was? I'm just trying to figure out how you came to the numbers.
Right, those numbers are, I'm pulling those numbers out of other institutes,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I'd be interested in seeing where they came
Yeah.
from because I'd like to know over what period of time are they estimating that? Because you could say we spend
No, I understand.
$49 million,
Sure.
and you
Yeah.
can say, well,
Liars,
it's costing
liars,
$4,000 a ride.
figures lie, I
Exactly.
understand,
So it
yeah, I
depends on how you
understand.
spend the
But I don't think it's
taxes,
any
curious how
secret
those
that
come up with.
subsidized transportation is huge. That, in fact, if you look, just to point out, the $7 per ride number was just cited by CEO Brad Miller a week ago Monday. I was there up in Oldsmar. And he said it is $7 operation and capital. So it only makes sense that when you take that and extrapolate that into light rail, that $15 and $16 certainly is feasible to consider, that $7 for a bus system versus 15 or 16 for a rail makes all the sense in the world. Now let me put this into a little perspective though. Let's say, for instance, that you and your wife and your 2 kids go to the game and it costs you $8, but it costs the taxpayer $60.
Okay, well, that's all well and good
Yeah.
if those are, that's why I wanted to know how the numbers were.
Yeah.
And how they arrived at the numbers, or you arrived at the numbers.
Okay.
So my other question is, one piece that I noticed you left out of this, and what I'm most happy about is that this is going for a vote to the public. Because I think that's clearly going to be the best way to say where Pinellas County wants to go. But you kept talking about the need-based transportation. And I think it's safe to say that a lot of people feel like, because of the way we our American lifestyles, that we consider the bus our last alternative, maybe with walking just under that. But the one piece you weren't bringing up, and I think might be being overlooked by people who are opposed to it, is the fact that it's a transportation alternative. When I travel to cities who have good transportation infrastructure, I use it. I don't bother renting a car in a city I can get around in without one.
And the taxpayers in that city are paying for it. And so
I wasn't
that's,
quite finished yet. So my point is that didn't seem to be a part of the, it says right there, your liberty is mobility, mobility is your liberty. Well, you could easily use that same phrase for both sides of this coin. I mean, it's a transportation alternative. It's not just need-based. I think the reason it comes across as need-based so often is because it needs to be improved. I mean, I don't think you can argue that there's a good north-south route in this county traffic-wise.
well, why don't we run one and see? Why don't we run one from downtown Clearwater to downtown St. Petersburg at BRT for a couple of years, and let's see what the ridership is on that. Because like the bus that was coming out to your area used to have higher frequency, and they cut it back because so many, the ridership, just because you build it, doesn't mean they will come. So why don't we try running something on rubber tires before we build a track all the way and get ourselves committed to this at a time when our country is $17 trillion in debt and we're borrowing money from China. This is where we're coming from. We're just coming from this as trying to be fiscally responsible. The work is from numbers. So the people who need public transportation, we want to help fix that. We want that fixed so that they get good service.
Okay, I've heard the need part, so I was
Okay,
just
but
addressing the other
to build
side,
a whole
transportation.
society around public transportation, we did that 50, 60, 100 years ago, where people had to depend on it. Today, they don't have to depend on it.
Luckily, the voters will decide in November.
That's
Thank
right.
you very much.
That's